Hello, everyone. Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. We are thrilled to have you here wherever you're watching us from, whatever platform you're on. Welcome. Please do sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. I'm Dr. Jacalyn-Kerbeck, and our show today is the Mallorca Connection. We're going to be talking about listening skills. If any of you are not aware, I'm the listening mentor. I teach people how to listen at an elevated level, and we have a team of people who are elevated listeners. So what happens to our listening skills when we don't understand the topic? Here to explore this with me is the star of our show, Mr. Roland-Friedl. If you weren't watching just a few minutes ago, we just finished the Planet Earth show together. So do join us. Mark your calendars for Tuesdays at 12 and 1, respectively, Eastern time. And of course, that would be, what time is that, Roland? Is that 6 and 7 o'clock Central European time? So Roland is a entrepreneur. He's a coach. He is a man who has a vision. He is a man who is committed to following his intuition. I love that about him. And he doesn't put up with a lot of BS, by the way. Let's welcome him and find out what he's been up to. Hello, Roland.
Hello, Jacalyn. Hello to all the audience. Hello.
It's nice to have you with us again today. And for people who don't know, you really make a commitment to be here. You have to find Wi-Fi and make sure that you're able to broadcast, and that takes commitment. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're very welcome. You know, when the why is strong enough, the how and the what is just a question of finding a solution.
Absolutely. So, Roland, you've been with me for a number of years, and you also have your own platform, and you know how important listening skills are, especially when you're interviewing someone. Tell us a little bit about your own platform.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I started this platform actually last year. I was on a men's festival in Austria, and I found out, there's so many amazing men who are seeking for development, who want to become in their masculine power again. And on the other hand, there was amazing coaches and trainers there. And I Googled a little bit around, and I found that most of these trainers are really good and coaches, but they're present. They don't have a good broadcast, video audio podcast. So I said, okay, let's bring up a platform, a video platform podcast on. Actually, it's on YouTube, by the way. It's called Roland Media, and we have different channels there. And I started with Wild at Heart. It's a German channel for men, a German channel for men by men about men topics. So I'm always interviewing interesting men who do an amazing job to improve men's life. That's how I started. And then women came on this platform, and I'm very happy for them. They came on the entrepreneur platform, German, Austrian, Swiss women, also German-speaking women. Why did I learn? To be honest, actually, I learned so much from these amazing ladies, and they really kicked off. Absolutely. So the numbers of viewers went through the roof with all these amazing ladies. So yeah, the platform is Roland Media.
We're very happy for you and wish you continued success. And if somebody wants to take out their device, they can actually scan the QR code that you see here in the corner and you can connect directly with Roland. He also has his website right there, roland-friedl.com, and you can reach out to him there. Roland, we're talking today about communication skills, which are extremely important. I know for some of the younger generations, a lot of communication is done strictly via texting. Even if you're in person, that people have their devices out and they're texting one another. And I found there can be some misinterpretations, misunderstanding with text messaging as well as email. Sometimes even communicating like this, it's hard to grasp if we don't understand the topic. And where I want to go with this is you and I might be having a conversation about something that each of us thinks the other one knows a lot about, but maybe we don't know a lot about it. And while you're talking, I'm thinking, what is he talking about? I don't want to tell him I don't know what he's talking about. And now I'm not listening to anything you're saying. And ultimately, how are we going to come together if I don't understand and I'm not listening?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love this this picture in the back because, when you don't understand the topic, you're drifting away, and then you're in a different bubble. So then you're the one person in one bubble, one person in the other bubble.
So true.
They cannot communicate with each other, and it happens very often. Actually, one thing is that some people start speaking to somebody without making sure that the other person is willing and able to listen. So that's one point I learned is, of course, listening is important, but also when you start talking to someone, we have to make sure that the other person is capable to listen and not distracted by whatever it is. I guess it's one of the first points.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And I think that the other thing that's really key in listening is taking the ego and putting it to the side. And I can't tell you how many times I have conversations with people and they're throwing out these terms or these statements that are completely from an egocentric perspective. And you can't have a conversation when one or both people are in their ego. At least that's my experience. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, especially some so-called experts or specialists, they're living in their bubble, and of course they are used to all these terms and abbreviations. Some people have abbreviations, and they believe that everybody has the same understanding. But no, they are in a different bubble. This is not working. Yeah, I see that very, very often. And for me, an expert, actually, since the last 4 years, I cannot hear the term expert anymore. But as an educated person, yeah, as an educated, experienced person, I think you should, before you start talking to the audience, you should make sure that you use a language and words and terminology that everybody understands. And I learned this years ago from a book. He was writing, he has no respect about all the scientists who can only speak to a certain audience. He loves people who can talk to on the same topic to a top scientist from the same topic, and also to somebody who is working in a kitchen, or somebody's just managing the household, or somebody's a gardener. So this is really a communication skill that everybody understands exactly what you're talking about.
Yes. And you know what's really come up for me recently? I started teaching fitness classes again. And in a fitness class, you don't know. I mean, you can look at the roster and see who's signed up, but who's going to show up? What skill set do they have? How much cardiovascular shape are they in? How strong are they? So you have to be able to conduct that fitness class for all levels, from beginner to athlete. And in order to be able to do that, you have to be able to read the room and you have to see how are people performing, and you ask the appropriate questions before you even begin the class. And then of course you check with people afterwards and see any feedback they might have. But I don't know that we actually do that or have some kind of structure around having a conversation with someone. And one thing I want to just discuss with you is, we've talked about this many times, setting boundaries. So, for example, if someone were to come up behind and start talking to you, hey, well, you're doing something right now. You are committed to this, and so am I. But people don't actually consider that if they come home and their significant other is at the desk working, they just come to the back of the head, blah, 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 blah. Why don't we realize that we need some boundaries in order to have effective communication?
Absolutely. Same. I'm loving the reason for this. Well, I'm here on a camping site in South Italy, my motorhome, and here are two lovely gentlemen, and it fits perfect to this topic. Two lovely gentlemen living. Actually, they're not gay, but one is taking care about the other. The one is 80, and the other one is 88. So the 81 is taking care about the 88, and they're spending here the winter here. They're from Germany. Really, two lovely gentlemen, absolutely. And the one has a dog, and he's offering me when I'm working, when I'm producing shows or whatever, he's walking my dog. So we had a commitment, but he's a little bit demented. Forgot it. When my dog is outside and the door is closed, he can pick up the dog. So what I did, because I was not sure if he's coming or not, is I brought the dog inside because my honey, she's very protecting dog. So when somebody comes close to the motorhome, she gets furious. So she's very protective. So I brought her in so that the barking is not disturbing the show. And I closed the door, and he came, and he was knocking on the door, knocking on the door, knocking. I was live on the show. He was knocking on the door, knocking on the. Then he tried to open it, and it is difficult to open it. He opened it, it was noise, and finally he made it. And I was still on the show, and he didn't care about what I'm doing. I was just with my arms, and the audience couldn't see. Please go away. And he was romping into my motor, trying to get my huge dog out from the table. But after he gave up. And then I went out to him, and everybody was laughing in the camping site. And I said, "Hey, you have to talk to him." And I said, "But to be honest, I wasn't angry. I wasn't angry, but because he's 80 years old, and we all know that the older we become, the more we become in a child behaving." Uh, so of course I was setting boundaries, but I did it very, very polite.
I love that. And it's not easy to set boundaries because I think that fear factor comes into play. I'm going to hurt his feelings. I'm going to hurt her feelings. They're not going to talk to me anymore. But what I found also is after going through the fear over and over again is many times the opposite happens. The person respects you more, and they also start looking at their own life and saying, why don't I have boundaries? Why am I letting XYZ just walk all over me? I teach a course, and I'm teaching it again next week. It's called Setting Boundaries and Asking Permission. And what I thought was so interesting in one of the last live classes were the looks on people's faces when I was talking about various role plays and scenarios. And people came forward and said, my daughter doesn't listen to me, my husband, and they gave these, and the tears and the pain, and it all came from lack of communication. So if people don't think that this topic is at the highest priority level, I think you need to rethink it.
Communication is the skill. Actually, it's this key. It's the key. And I made the last years a hell of money with companies because they couldn't communicate within these huge companies from apartment to apartment and so on. And actually, also privately, it's when relationships break, it's all about a lack of communication. It's always communication, always, always, always. But to be honest, we don't learn it in school. We learn so stupid stuff that we never need again. We learn stuff that we can Google or whatever. So, but we never learn things like communication, like behaving properly, growing food. I don't know, stuff like that. But yeah, communication is absolutely key, and most people don't know, and they're so scared about talking. To be honest, there was 90% of the people are scared of speaking public or just standing up in a small group and talk, and because they're so frightened about the feedback, the rejections they get, the no they get, whatever. Yeah, but and the other thing is, when I don't know, when I was a small kid, I always wanted to know this, why is that, what is that, and most of the time, what I heard, because my parents had no time for me, they haven't been emotionally present, or other adults, I always said, okay, stay quiet, not now, stay quiet. And that's what I heard all the time. And my learning was not talking much, not asking much, not talking much, and then it becomes a pattern.
It's a pattern that you then take into your future relationships, and then you have to sort of undo everything that's been done. And a question that I have for you, because this is something I've noticed quite often, and it's typically in conversations with men. I don't have it with you, but I'd love for you to, and I'm not saying it only happens between women and men, but I'm saying in my experience, why is it when you're having a conversation, if I say to you, Roland, I really want to share with you what happened to me yesterday. Do you have 5 minutes to listen? Boom, you've got the 5 minutes. And I'm telling you the story. I'm in like sentence three. Well, and you start interrupting. I can't even get to sentence 5 or 6. Why is that?
We have to understand that women and men behave and communicate differently, totally. So when a woman comes with a problem, she's not asking for a solution. A woman goes emotionally through a problem, and then she finds out her solution. And if not, then she's asking the man to give a solution. But when a woman is talking to a man like myself, what I learned is the only thing she wants is keep the space, hold the space, and just listen. And what we men, we always believe that we have to bring up a solution. We always said, "Oh, I have to do something. I have to do something. What the fuck I have to do? What is this expect? I have to do something." And then we try to do something that, what most of the time doesn't make sense. And so we don't stop. We don't continue listening. What we do is we are just about thinking about a solution. And that's why, and then we bring out the solution, and then we're so disappointed because she's saying, "You're not listening to me." And I said, "What the fuck? You communicate a problem. I heard in the first sentence, you don't have to continue because I know exactly what's coming afterwards. You have a problem. Here's a solution." But this is not how women communicate. So women communicate, and they go emotionally through this problem, and then they come out with a solution. And if not, they ask for support. Gentlemen, this you have to learn. Okay, when a woman comes to you with a problem, listen, hold space, listen, nothing else. Don't bring up a solution until you're not asked. Men are differently. Men go directly men go directly to the brain finding a solution. Women go with their heart through the emotions. That's a different approach.
Something that you shared, I just was like, Eureka, I can't believe what you just said, because you said as soon as the person starts to talk about the problem, you stop listening because you have the answer. You already are saying to yourself, I know what she needs. But do you really know what she needs?
That's the point. That's the point. Men believe that they have a solution for them. No, it's not about this. Again, when men and women communicate differently and they solve problems differently and they go with their emotions differently. When men come overwhelmed by emotions, they get immediately into their head, into their brain. Women go through this emotion and then come out with a solution. And as I said, if they don't have a solution, then they go for the man and ask for it. We have to wait.
So here's a question I have for you. If we were to rewind and I were to say to you, Roland, I really want to share something with you that happened yesterday, and I would love it if you would just listen and not worry about having to come up with an answer. I just want you to hear me. Can you do that for me? Will you do that?
Absolutely.
Is that a relief when I say that, or is that more pressure?
No, it's a clear conversation. It's a clear setting, and I think this is so important when women have to because most men don't know how to communicate properly with women. It's bring up a clear setting. I say, honey, I'm gonna tell you something. Please, no solution. Just listen. I'm not expecting anything from you. Except listening and maybe holding in my arms. We have to learn this. But I learned it.
I love that. But now here's another scenario. I call you up and I say, Roland, something happened yesterday. I'm really upset about it. I need you to fix it for me. That's pressure, isn't it?
Yeah, actually, it's a trauma invitation. I never take trauma invitations.
Tell us more.
Because you come to me like a victim, and you say, okay, something happened. You feel like a victim. You're helpless, and you ask me to come in as a rescuer. And maybe you have an issue with another person, and I don't know if it's true or not. And if I try to fix this problem for you, I'm not a rescuer anymore. I'm just starting mopping because I don't know what's going on. So what I would say to you is, if a problem with another person is, Jacalyn, if the other person would be here and I asked the person about this issue, about this event that happened, what would her or his answer be?
About what happened? Oh, so if I said to you, well, somebody was really rude to me. They were disrespectful to me. They hurt me. I felt like I didn't exist.
Yeah. I said, Jacqueline, I hear you. My question is, if the other person would be here in the room with us now, and I would ask the other person how he or she is interpreting the event, what would he or she say? And maybe the person would say, I don't know, I'm sorry, I was under pressure. My boss called me several times. I was under pressure, and that's why I raised my voice, or whatever. It's about it's not stepping into this trauma, because if I go as a rescue, I become I become a predator. So what I want to do is help you, that you are not helpless, and understand it's not against you. The other person has an issue with herself, and maybe she or she was raising her voice or whatever.
Right. And it could also be from the other person's perspective. Oh, she doesn't understand. She does this all the time. I start saying how I feel and then she shuts me down. But I love what you said. You're not going to insert yourself into the middle of that.
No.
Now, if I said to you instead, I know how you feel about these types of situations, Roland. I don't want you to fix me. You don't have to fix the situation. I really just need to vent. So if you want to put the phone on speaker and just go around and do whatever, I just need to get it out of my system. Can I just vent?
Well, the point is, if I have time for you and really the energy, I would say yes, keep going. If not, because I'm working on a project or a client is stepping in the next minute, I would say, hey, honey, I would love to listen to you, to talk to you, but can we talk later in an hour? I'm occupied now. And I want to be
No,
fully present.
no, I want to talk to you right now. Right this second, I want to talk to you. I need to talk to you now, Roland.
Sorry, honey, but it's impossible. A client is stepping in. As I said, I'm always there for you when I'm free.
But this is what happens in the real world.
Yeah,
We start jumping up and down like, you need to listen to me like
yeah.
you're a child,
Yeah,
right?
I would say Jacqueline. Right now, the little Jacqueline is talking to me, and I would suggest that the adult Jacqueline is talking to me, and then we fix an appointment in an hour. Is it okay for you?
Exactly. But you know what happens in between? Then I said, I'm not saying me, but this is me before I started working myself. Okay, he's not available. I'm going to call someone else. Who else can I call? And you just start calling people till someone answers and blah, 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 blah. They're like, whoa, I wish I didn't answer the phone. And then on the opposite end, we start recognizing, oh, when so-and-so calls, I'm not taking that call. Ooh, not happening.
Yeah. Some people have issues, and then they're the middle of the world, and then the worst thing that can happen to them, and the little trauma is the largest trauma in the world. Yeah, that's normal. But this the little girl or little boy is talking, not the adult version, and I want to communicate with the adult version.
That's so important. So I want to go back to the topic. When we don't understand, now think of this is an extreme example, but you're taking a course actually in person, you signed up for chemistry, I don't know, and the professor gets up and they're talking about carbon atoms, and you have literally no idea what they're saying. And you're writing things down. Of course, you can't be listening when you're writing, but you don't even know what you're writing because you don't know what the professor is talking about. But you don't want to raise your hand because you're going to look stupid because everybody else seems to get it. Because that's an example people can understand. What is the best thing to do in that scenario? You are the student, you don't understand about carbon atoms.
First of all, let's check if we're in the right room.
Me either. I'm not in that room either.
I'm not in the right room. Maybe I signed up for something else. I'm in the wrong room. That's the first thing, because this happens sometimes. Yeah. Okay, this happens. Well, I raise my voice. I'm asking because I know that that the percentage where I had that I'm not the only one who is confused, and I think that other people are so happy that somebody has the balls and raise his hand and asking a question, and then the other was, oh, luckily, because I was afraid to ask, but I'm on the same under the same pressure because I didn't understand too. Yeah, I do it. Yeah.
I love that when somebody raises their hand, like, oh, I'm so happy that person raised their hand. But what I would also do is, first of all, I would get out of that course immediately. I'd be like, yeah, I didn't need to sign up for that one. But I would go up and ask the professor afterwards, hey, I kind of got lost 2/3 of the way through, knowing the professor might say, well, did you do the homework? I started the homework, but I didn't understand it. They don't have chemistry for dummies that I can find. So I need some tutoring. Can you recommend somebody? I mean, I might have to go that route. But in a relationship, we don't actually take those steps. We don't always raise our hand and say, oh, sweetheart, I don't know what you're talking about, because we know that our partner might have a very short attention span, and just saying anything might send this person off into some other realm.
Yeah, definitely. But in a relationship, you are more emotionally in, and it's very easy to get in the red zone. In this red zone, I mean, in emotion, when emotions going up, especially when you have a bad day, you're in a bad mood, and then bang, it can explode. It can explode. Well, I learned it the hard way. I never wanted, because as I said in the beginning, from my education, when I was a small boy, I was said, shut up, don't ask too much question, don't disturb, don't be annoying, stuff like that. So, but I learned it the hard way, and I found out, hey, no, I'm raising my hand, I'm asking because I want to understand the other person. But otherwise, what the heck I'm doing here? Yeah. I'm asking questions always. Yeah, for sure. Because I found out that it's more stupid not to ask than to ask a stupid question. And no question is stupid. I mean, of course, I listen, I prepare and whatever. Of course. Of course. But sometimes we don't get a clue what the other person is talking about. And then I ask, why not? I mean, so many misunderstandings are raised, and then we have conflicts and whatever, because we don't ask questions. Yeah. And then the other person has no clue that you don't understand. And then raise your hand.
And Roland, something that you and I have in common, we're both speakers, we're both coaches. When someone does raise their hand and say, hey, I don't understand, I really appreciate that, because they're actually interested. It shows that they're interested and they want to learn more, as opposed to, you can look out in the audience and go, oh, that last row is passed out. I think they're unconscious.
Yeah. But actually, for me, Dr. when somebody's asking a question, I highly appreciate it, because for me, it's a feedback that I didn't explain it properly so everybody understands it. It's not their person's fault. It's my person's fault. I didn't find a way that everybody understands me. And that's what I do when I run a course, or online or in life, in presence, is I'm always asking questions in between. Are you still with me? Are you still with me? Always. Because it's so easy to lose somebody. And you always, you have always people who are learning faster. Some people learn slower, and everybody's on a different level. Some people are overwhelmed. Some people maybe get bored in your course. So always make clear that everybody's on the same level. And that's our responsibility, to make clear, especially when you run a course, that everybody's there and we're not losing a person.
I completely agree with you. And here's a question I have for you. I love to tell a story before I get to the point. But I'll let you know what the point is, and then I'll tell you the story, and then I'll elaborate. And the reason I do that is I like to give people a background. So I might say to you, Roland, I want to tell you something that happened to me, but I've got a backstory, and it's going to take about 7 minutes. So in total, it's going to be 10 before I get to what you have to say. How do you feel about that? Does that work for you?
But I love stories, and I also use stories because I know what people remember is always stories and not the facts. So it's all about storytelling.
Yes.
Absolutely. People always remember stories, never the facts. Yeah.
And again, it's about setting the stage, because if you're thinking, and just imagine in a scenario, let's say you have something to do right after this show, and I call you and I just want to talk about how the show's when you're thinking, okay, I've got to be somewhere. You're starting to feel anxious because you're waiting for that moment to interject and say, I've got to go. I thought this was going to be quick. So I feel like we have to preface each conversation by saying what it is that we need from the other party. And sometimes I just know from doing this with other people, they find it to be annoying. Why do you always have to ask if I have time? Because I want you to do the same for me. Really, I want to set the stage so we have that respectful conversation.
Yeah, yes, actually. And the other point is, if somebody picks up the phone, especially a mobile phone, I mean, if somebody is working or occupied, why picking up the phone? I don't understand it. So when somebody picks up the mobile phone, I my belief is that the person is ready to listen, because I wouldn't pick up the phone if I'm occupied. But maybe it's a different approach. I don't know, but I never pick up a phone when I'm occupied.
So I think it is different, and I'll tell you why. If I saw you calling me, I would know it's important because you leave me voice messages. You leave me messages all the time, but if you actually call me, I'd be like, he has something he wants to tell
Urgent.
me. I'm picking up that phone, or even if I'm doing something, I'm thinking I got to get to roll, and I'll text him right away and let him know. But if it's somebody who calls you on a regular basis and you know they're a talker and you know it's going to be 10 minutes, I'll give you an example. Let's say you're new in sales. You go out on a sales call and you go into the executive's office and you start looking around. Wow, I guess you like to fish and you've got 3 kids. When you get more experience, you know you have 30 minutes with this person. Let's get to it. These are your business issues. This is what's keeping you up at night. But it's the same thing when you're in a very familiar relationship, that you have these patterns of behavior that are dysfunctional. Unless somebody sets the boundaries, it's going to continue.
Yeah, absolutely. It was an amazing experiment, because this was what you brought in was old school, bringing up this small talk and about referring on the pictures you see label somebody's playing golf or have kids or fishing. This is very old school. If somebody approaches a salesperson approaching like this and said, "Oh, you want to go fishing with me?" Why you ask to talk about fishing? This is very old school. Yeah, absolutely. No, it's about coming to a point. Absolutely. And most people, I train salespersons over many years, and the most difficult thing for them was the elevator pitch, to bringing their service in 1 or 2 sentences. Chile, to nail it down. The people talking and talking and talking. You don't have a clue what you're doing. Can you nail it down in 1 sentence? Yeah, it's also important that you come to the core immediately and not circling around the hot around the hot. Yeah.
It's true. We actually, on our women's show, we've had a couple of episodes where each panelist had to say exactly what their elevator pitch was. And after they did it, they're like, "Oh, can I do it again?" So it's something that we really have to practice. But part of doing an elevator pitch and being profound is that you're communicating effectively in a short amount of time. So if I get in an elevator with you and you're the executive and you say, what is it that you do? Well, I first started out painting houses and then I moved it. You're like, oh, there's no appointment there.
Yeah, no, no, not at all. Not at all.
Now, here's what I want to bring in about understanding, and I'd love to know your thoughts on this. When we're talking about having a conversation, and even though it's about me and what, in this example, it's about me and what happened to me yesterday, for example, if I can bring in an analogy that resonates with you, maybe an experience I know that you've had, or if I say, imagine if you were in this situation, do you think that makes it for a more effective, meaningful exchange as opposed to just a one-way blah, blah, blah?
Of course, because I will be more emotionally attached to it. Of course, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Can you talk about that emotional attachment?
Oh, how much time do we have? Yeah, actually, that's what I trained. I stopped doing that. What I trained salespeople is bring in more emotion, because everything is so rational in business. Bring in emotion, because emotions is what we drive. And when we make a buying decision, it's an emotional decision. It's not from the ratio. Actually, we try to explain it rationally to our wife why we need a car with 300 horsepower. Yeah, but it's an emotional decision. And I always tell people, bring emotion and bring stories and bring emotion and attach people by emotions. Tell stories. And it's not about the facts. Everyone can Google facts or read facts in a feature sheet or in a description book. Bring in stories and emotion, because this is what drives people and attaches them. Absolutely. It's also important. We have to bring in more emotions.
That's what brings people together.
Yeah.
It's for sure. So, if we were to sum up how our listening skills are impacted when we don't understand, I would say the first thing that comes to mind for me is that there's a defense mechanism that kicks in. oh, I don't understand what he's saying. There's like a wall that I just built myself. And instead of taking a step back and just raising my hand and saying, professor, sweetheart, whomever, I'm kind of lost right there. Can you take a step back? Now, sometimes you'll get pushback because the person telling the story is emotionally engaged in it. They want to go somewhere with it. And now you're putting up a little obstacle, like a little hurdle they have to get over before they can get to this story. What do you think is a great way to deal with that?
Well, first of all, when I tell a story and somebody has a question, I finish my story and I say, "Look, give me a second and then I come back to you." So I finish my story. That's one thing. I would be professional and being polite and professional. So giving the other person a sign, okay, I see you. But I just finish and then I'll come back to you. I wouldn't let interrupt my story. Absolutely not. Doesn't make sense to interrupt a story. But I give the other person a sign and say, okay, see you. Give me a second. Yeah.
Now, I have a question about that. I love that approach. So when you're finished with your story, Dr. Jacalyn, I know that you had a question. Do you still have that question? Did I answer it? Because you might have already addressed it.
My first question is, does this question relate to the topic we're talking right now? Because I want to get distracted somewhere else. Because some people always have flying around, it's all my thing. Because because I'm responsible for the whole audience, and I want to bring the audience from spot A to spot B at the end of my lecture. So we're on a journey, and okay. So I want to bring out. So my first question is, does this question relate to the topic we are talking right now? And if not, is it okay for you when we talk afterwards again? Come to me and ask me your questions, because I want to stay with the topic, because I'm invited as a professor in a university where I was teaching, or as a consultant, or as a trainer by a company. My order is bring my audience from there to there, and that's my job. And I do everything to fulfill this job. And when somebody comes with something else and it's not fitting in, I say, sorry, but come to me in the break. Maybe we have a lunch break or coffee break. Come with me there. I have time for you.
I love that, because you're acknowledging the other person, and at the same time, you're able to present what it is that you were hired to present, but you're acknowledging the other person. So you're being inclusive and also professional.
And the interesting thing is, because sometimes you have this people, there's always having a question. And I say this 2 or 3 times, and then I don't have to say anything, because the rest of the group says to the person.
Yeah, that's very true. It's very true. One thing I've noticed in conversations, because the fact that I teach people how to listen, I'm always super aware of the dynamics in the conversation, even my own role, because sometimes I can get triggered. I can be highly emotional and I have to reel myself back in. One thing I've noticed is if I'm talking about something, the other person will derail what I'm saying. And this isn't just one person, it's just in general. Let's say I'm talking, I'll give you an example. Let's say I'm talking about going on Samsung TV. Okay. And I've done my research and I reach out to a few people. Then I might get some conversation about a television show there's nothing to do with what I'm talking about. I'm talking about taking this and putting it over here. And here's the information. But the person wants to talk about something else related in the industry, but not directly related to what it is I want to do. So I listen and I wait for the tie-in. Where's the connection?
Mm-hmm.
And there isn't one.
Yeah. Well, depending on if I have time, I can make a short break and we talk about this topic and we continue. If it's not, I'm sorry. I stay with that, and we have a certain amount of time, but we can have another conversation afterwards. Why not? Yeah,
exactly.
I always follow the direction that is given.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. You are the consummate professional, Mr. Friedl. So we are coming to the end of our show. And for our new viewers who are on Roku, or maybe we don't have Instagram hooked up today on this platform on Wave, but for our new viewers and our new listeners on the audio platform, tell them about your own platform and tell them how you can help them.
Yeah. Well, my own platform is a German one, ladies and gentlemen. It's in German. It's Roland Media on YouTube. I interview interesting people. There are different channels. It's Wild at Heart. I interview people who do men's work. So it's for men, by men, about men. Interesting thing is that 30% of women watching it. I have a entrepreneur show. I have a travel, Wireless Life Rocks, and different shows. Just go into Roland Media. I make a long story short. But I want to mention something, Dr. Jacalyn, to our audience. If somebody wants to become a good listener, and maybe somebody wants to start as a coach, as a trainer, and speaking in front of groups, or in a seminar room or online, what I really recommend is, when you start is, ask somebody who can support you. I give an example. 2 weeks ago, a young gentleman I interviewed, he's doing some men's work, and he's running a 5-weekend online course with a lot of people, and he was very nervous. And he did an introduction first before he sold the course. And he asked me for feedback, because he invited me, and I asked for feedback. I said, hey, it's quite cool what you're doing, but you lost some people. Because I could feel it, and I can see it through the screen. You've been nervous, and I saw other faces, and you didn't see them because there's so many small faces on the Zoom. And so I said, "What are you testing?" I said, well, if you want, I come to your course for this 5 weeks. And the funny thing is, you want to come for free? I said, no, I offer you my service for free. Okay, so I come with you as a as a normal delegate, and I communicate. And it was interesting, because in the first seminar we did online, it was 2 hours running. And there was one person who became more quiet, and like I was watching his chest, and I recognized that this person is heavily breathing. So I was some trauma is coming up. So I was texting in the chat to the guy who was running the course, and said, please refer to this person, talk to this person. And he immediately did, because luckily he saw my chat. So he was talking to this person, and his name doesn't matter. I said, hey, what's up with you? And this person spoke up and said, oh, thank you. And then really, it was so a healing thing, because this person was so afraid to raise his voice and speak. And then he was speaking about what was inside, and he was so happy that he signed up for the other courses. Because he realized that somebody was listening to him and recognizing him. So what I highly recommend is, if you run a course for the first time, or you're new in the business as a trainer course, bring somebody in who does nothing else than watching the audience and gives you feedback if you're going to lose somebody. Sorry for that, but this is important.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you very much. We do have a QR code that people can scan so they can connect with you, but you also have your website right there, roland-friedl.com. So for people who are listening on the audio platform, would you please spell the name of your website?
Yeah, it's my name. It's Roland Friedl. It's rolandfriedl.com, roland-friedl.com. And from there, you have a contact form, and you're more than welcome to contact me. Whatever you want to know or communicate, let me know, and then we find a way to communicate. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Roland. Enjoy the rest of your evening there, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.
Yeah, thanks for having me. All the best, Dr. Jacalyn. All the best to our audience, wherever you're joining us. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for being here. Please do scan the QR code if you are watching on a visual platform, or go to roland-friedl.com. We're coming back with our next show, which is The Listening Mentor, starring Caroline Heward. So please stay tuned for that. We'll be right back after this.
The last few days have been really amazing. I had a trainer course from the British School of Etiquette.
And I must say, it's been one of the best decisions I've ever made, and one of the best investments I've made in my own training and development.
Now, words alone will not describe the transformation and the positive path that I have traveled with the British School of Etiquette.
I found I learned a lot from the lessons this time I came.
The last few days with the British School of Etiquette have been fantastic.
And what I've learned now is really beyond my expectations.
This is the most rewarding experience and the best investment I have made this year.
It was just great. I learned so much, and when I go back to Belgium I will incorporate a lot of it into my day-to-day life and business.
It's been absolutely wonderful for the whole week that we were here.
I feel transformed, and I feel like blowing a trumpet and tell people, come and do this school. This class is the best. This is the best school ever.
You should take it. It's just, it will change your life immediately.
I am now able to teach other people how to bring the best of them.
Thank you.
Thank you, BSc.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Fostering better personal and professional relationships. Module 8, Mastery in Dining Etiquette. Building your confidence to perfect the subtleties of dining.